Harris continues to mock God Almighty and the very office she holds. And the video you're about to watch serves as prime evidence to that reality. All right, folks, let's get into this one. And I have to tell you, I am incredibly bothered by the video that you are about to watch and the one that I just saw. And I can tell you this, I was so bothered by it that I was moved to make this video because I think we need to demonstrate a very important point. And we also need to illustrate what happens when the United States of America chooses to make a mockery of God by allowing the nation of Israel to continue to be disrespected. Now, there's so much to say about what's going on, but perhaps more significantly and more importantly, Kamala Harris is not fit to be vice president of the United States, and she is undoubtedly not fit to be president of the United States. She makes a mockery of her office. She continues to choose to mock Almighty God, even though Almighty God will not be mocked. And she continues to be the laughing stock of anything related to any resemblance of wise as it relates to foreign policy. She does not know what she's talking about, and her ability to functionally articulate anything that is worth any value or of any importance or of any means that define anything around her is completely null. And I want to explain the fact that so many people are beginning to look at the color of her skin and actually say that that is the sole reason why she should become the president of the United States, when in reality, everything she puts her hands to, she literally destroys. She has made a mockery of so many of the offices that she has held. I don't want to get into all of these people who were falsely imprisoned in the state of California. I don't want to get into all of the things that she joked about and laughed about, when in reality, all of them were absolutely serious. But I do want to show you a video of her pretending to be presidential, when in reality, all she did was made a very difficult situation worse. And quite frankly, she is an embarrassment not to only our country, but she is an embarrassment to the history of our country and anything related to anything of value of our country. And besides all the other things that I just spoke about, it's amazing to me how absolutely aloof she is to reality and the lack of understanding that she has concerning the things that may very well be the most important to the survival of this republic. Case in point, when we speak about the nation of Israel, you have to go back to the book of Genesis, chapter 12, and let me read to you the first few verses of this chapter, because I think it's important we understand the foundation for the conclusion that I'm coming to, and it will also help shed light on how absolutely crazy Kamala Harris is. Look at this in verse 1. It says in Genesis chapter 12, "Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee." Verse 2, "And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Now, I will tell you, I have grown weary of the amount of times that I have had to articulate this set of verses, as well as many other that actively demonstrate the importance of taking care of the nation of Israel. That as a nation, if we want to stand in a way where we begin to experience the type of blessings and bountifulness that I know God wants to give us, then it is important that we honor God and we do things God's way, which is why I've been particularly disappointed in this political season, because it seems as though things are getting worse and worse and worse on the so-called right and, of course, on the hard left. And things continue to get darker. And perhaps one of the main pieces of evidence that I can find of how dark things are getting is when people mistreat the nation of Israel because they fail to understand the obligation that God has set forth in order to honor him by honoring his ancestrally chosen people, the Jews, and their homeland and the place in which they live. It seems as though the more popular thing to do is to mock the people of Israel, is to literally put them in danger, to physically attack them, to bring on harm. And it would almost seem that the more people that die and suffer that are Jews, the better off things are. This is the way people are thinking, and this is the way people are talking. And nothing, absolutely nothing, could be more destructive for a nation than for them not to stand behind Israel and for them to continue to mock the people of God and to continue to hurt the people of God. Now, I understand the ridiculous argument that people make oftentimes where they say, well, these people have rejected Jesus, so we reject them and we don't care about them, and they're not really followers of God because they're of the synagogue of Satan. I am tired of how many people have misquoted that passage in Revelation amongst many others, because the reality of it is God says it. Look up at the moon, look at the stars, look at the sun. I can tell you that if those ordinances still exist, then my people, Israel, will always continue to be my people. They will be protected by me. And keeping that in mind, you have to understand that if a nation is going to prosper, it is critical that the stand that the nation takes with respect to Israel be a positive one, be one that is supportive, and be one that is understanding. And of course, let's go over a little bit of history, because the nation of Israel was recently attacked again and again and again. And the most recent of these attacks happened after this video took place. But of course, we know what happened in the north with respect to the community that was in the Golan Heights. We saw how it has affected the Druze and the loss of their children, just a terrible situation. We also saw, which by the way, was prior to this video that you're going to see, which is why this video is completely egregious. But prior to this video, we actually saw Tel Aviv being attacked by the Yemeni Houthis. And we even went as far as to see Israel retaliating justly so because of the attack that had happened. And quite frankly, we also watched the cooperation of many Middle Eastern nations, by the way, including Russia, to help Israel properly respond with the attack that they needed to respond with. And I will also say this, for a person who speaks the way Kamala is about to speak, who wants to be the president of the United States, whatever you do after you watch this video, make certain she will never be a good president. She does not understand the very things that are put in front of her. She is completely aloof and she is oblivious. So we're going to play this video. I am going to interrupt it quite often because that's what I do. And I'm warning you, okay? This is exactly what happens. I'm going to interrupt it. And as I interrupt it, I'm going to point out some things that are very obvious. And then I hope to be able to point out some things that are not so obvious. But what I would really, really, really want to do is give you a better understanding of just how destructive this person is, just how broken this person is. And when I say broken, I'm not talking about broken as in humiliated before God. I'm talking about broken as in all the king's horses and all the king's men guaranteed would never be able to put this Humpty back together again. And that's exactly what we're looking at. So watch what Kamala does. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, she's in the White House. She is walking away, either in the White House or she might be actually in the Capitol building. I'm not sure. And she walks away from a meeting that she just has with Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel. She's been meeting with him for an hour, which, by the way, that should have been the president doing that, but that's not the case now because the president is slowly being put into pasture so that he can, continue to walk in the world of confusion that he's been walking in for the last 3.5 years. But since they want to run her as the next president of the United States, she has to get up there, walk, pretend to be somebody who's serious and somebody who really understands things. Just watch the way that she walks up to her podium and addresses the nation. It's insane. It's completely crazy. And she is completely oblivious to what reality is. If I just finished having a meeting with Netanyahu, I promise you, I would not say any of what she said. Let's go over it real quick. Notice how she just gets everything all ready. She walks up, she tries to look serious. She whispers, okay. And then, puts her hand down like, I'm serious. I mean business. I'm the president. That's the way she's looking right now. I just can't believe that I heard her say what she's about to say. Like, I just listen to what she says. It's crazy.
Just had a frank and constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I told him that I will always ensure that Israel is able to defend itself, including from Iran and Iran-backed militias such as Hamas and Hezbollah.
Okay. I don't disagree with anything she said at this point. Any conversation with Netanyahu is going to be productive. Of course it is. You're sitting at the table with the prime minister in Israel. It's going to be a productive conversation. We should absolutely jump on allowing Israel to defend herself. She says defend itself. Fine, whatever. We should absolutely get behind them, especially against Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas. Absolutely. I'm with her. Here's where it gets weird. You cuckoo.
From when I was a young girl, collecting funds to plant trees for Israel, to my time in the United States Senate and now at the White House, I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel.
By the way, I'm just going to say I call her a liar about the fact that she was a young girl collecting money for trees for Israel, because when she was a young girl, she was learning how to be a Marxist from her Marxist mom and dad. Let's just call it what it is, okay? I don't think Israel was on her mind. I get it. She is married to a Jewish man, but she ought to be ashamed of herself, especially being married to the person that she's married to, saying what she's about to say, because this is where it gets dumb. Because so far, it sounds like it's so good, it's all fine, but wait till you see where she goes. I love Israel, but that's what you're about to see.
I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters.
Okay, let me give you the interpretation for that. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it's done matters. In other words, I'm just telling you Israel has a right to defend herself because that's what I'm supposed to do after having spoken to Netanyahu. But what I just told you is code for they shouldn't be able to defend themselves the way they're doing it, because the way they're doing it is effective. It's propaganda, and it's already starting in her speech. We're not even at the 49-second mark yet.
Hamas is a brutal terrorist organization. On October 7, Hamas triggered this war when it massacred 1,200 innocent people, including 44 Americans. Hamas has committed horrific acts of sexual violence and took 250 hostages. There are American citizens who remain captive in Gaza. Sagi Deko Hen, Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, Idan Alexander, Keith Siegel, Omer Nutra, and the remains of American citizens Judy Weinstein, Gad Haggai, and Itai Hen are still being held in Gaza. I have met with the families of these American hostages multiple times now.
Multiple times now? What in the world does that mean? The first mention she's ever made of meeting with any of these families of hostages is just this now, right at this point, in this time, because it's the most opportunistic time. Sorry, I'm already wound up from watching this video, because when you watch it to its entirety, you're not going to be happy.
And I've told them each time they are not alone, and I stand with them. And President Biden and I are working every day to bring them home. I also expressed with the Prime Minister my serious concern.
My serious concern. I have a serious concern about the Prime Minister and what he's doing.
My serious concern about the scale of human suffering in Gaza, including the death of far too many innocent civilians. And I made clear my serious concern.
Okay, She's going to keep talking about serious concern, and she's worried about the death of innocent civilians when she actually does not have a clue about the background, the culture, the history of the nation. She doesn't know anything about Middle Eastern culture. She's very, very ignorant when it comes to understanding what the Islamic mindset is, especially as it relates to this terrorist activity. She doesn't know the charter of Hamas. She doesn't understand what the education of Islam provides for these people. She doesn't understand the level of deception that's involved. She doesn't understand passages in the Quran that say things like وَمَكْرُ وَمَكْرَ اللَّهُ وَأَللَّهُ خَيْرَ الْمَكَرِينَ, meaning Allah is the chief of deceivers. She doesn't understand that. She doesn't understand the idea that Muslims are told by their own Quran to continue to lie and deceive. And she does not know the charter of Hamas that actually says that their whole job is to not rest until every single Jew is eliminated off the face of the earth. It's not just min bahr bahr. It's not just from the river to the sea. It's from every part of the face of the earth. They believe that Jews should be exterminated. That is their view. That is what they believe. And they are very, 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 very happy to destroy civilian, innocent lives. They are happy to destroy people in Gaza, Palestinians, in order to make themselves look good in the media eye, to give people the impression that it's Israel that's destroying these lives when it is truly Hamas that's doing it all. Israel bears no responsibility for doing what it did because Israel continues to defend itself, and it does it with great regard for civilian casualties. As a matter of fact, we know for a fact because the data tells us this. The real data, not the terrorist organization of the UN's data. We're talking about real data that actually tells us that the amount of casualties associated with civilians on the ground in Gaza are lower than anything in any other form of modern warfare in world history. As a matter of fact, everybody's saying, all eyes on Rafah, all eyes on Rafah. When Israel went into Rafah, understand what happened over there. There were almost no casualties. 1,200 terrorists they killed when they were in Rafah. And the people that were killed, the innocent lives that were taken, roughly around 12 to 15 that were taken in that area, were taken because of what happened with Hamas. Hamas instituted that. So when this joke of a leader stands up there and says, I have serious concern, and I've made clear my serious concern, I have serious concern, she doesn't understand what she's talking about. If she walked into downtown Gaza right now, they would not be friendly to her. Do you understand that? They would not care about her. She is a Marxist, raised by Marxist parents, who has absolutely no concern or regard for the truth. It's that real. It's that true. It's ridiculous. Her mother and father taught her how to be a cultural Marxist, and she continues to carry on those ideas and philosophies throughout the tenure that she has had as the vice president of the United States, and she doesn't give a rip about the things that are right. All she cares about are the types of things that are so completely backwards in opposition to God that she continues to reap judgment upon herself. Let me make myself clear about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has the audacity to talk about the idea that she is concerned about what Israel is doing to innocent civilians, as she would call them, in Gaza. Yet she continues to stand up for the right of mothers everywhere, black mothers, by the way, to kill their innocent babies. Oh, I'm worried about what happened in Rafah when 12 or 14 or 16 innocent people died because of Hamas. But I demand the right to continue to kill babies at the tune of what will be, ready for this, folks? By the end of this year, 1.6 million. 1.6 million babies are about to be aborted. And by the way, can I say this? We are already almost at 1 million so far, and we are not finished. We are not finished with the month of August. We've just begun the month of August. Think about the insanity of that. Think about the craziness of it. I'm worried about these innocent civilians in Gaza, yet I'm not worried about the innocent civilians that I continue to exploit in the womb. That's how cuckoo this nonsense is. She's evil, and she knows it, and she's dark. But I want to make clear my serious concern. Well, let's talk about the other serious concern she has. Let's watch.
About the dire humanitarian situation there, with over 2 million people facing high levels of food insecurity, and 500,000 people facing catastrophic levels of acute food insecurity. What has happened in Gaza over the past 9 months is devastating.
She is so evil. I can't believe that she has a straight face while she looks at the American people and lies through her wicked teeth. I just can't even believe it. She's talking about the 2 million with food insecurity, and these people with food insecurity. Do you understand that the state of Israel alone has dropped so much food in Gaza that it is enough for every man, woman, and child every day to have 3,000 calories? Think about that for just a second. That's a real number. That's real data. How does food insecurity come as a result of it? I'll tell you how it comes as a result of it. It comes as a result of it because Hamas steals the food. That's how. That's how it happens. But yet she blames Israel because it's Israel's fault for doing what they need to do in defending themselves. If Hamas puts down their weapons, the Palestinians live a free life and a happy life. If the Israelis put down their weapons, they die. Think about that for a second. Good job, Kamala.
The images of dead children and desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety, sometimes displaced for the second, third, or fourth time.
I wonder what images of dead babies look like to her in the mother's womb. Wonder if that actually affects her. I wonder if it affects her when she looks at a casualty number, an inflated casualty number, like 30, 40,000, which, by the way, the largest terrorist organization in the world, the UN, has actually admitted to completely inflating those numbers and getting them wrong. They admitted that they listened to Hamas for those numbers. I'm not minimizing 40,000. I think it's an insane number. 1.6 million babies in the United States of America alone. You're a hypocrite, Kamala. You have no grounds to speak.
We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
How about you stop looking away from the suffering of the poor children that are living in the United States of America because of your bad policies? How about you, for just 1 second, stop looking away from the suffering that these babies are experiencing in the womb? How about for just 1 second, you actually stop looking away from the destruction that you have caused in the lives of all those innocent people that you actually prosecuted while you cackled and laughed at them? How about you stop looking away from the evil that you continue to do that one day God will judge you for? I'm sorry, folks. I told you I was mad. I told you I was bothered by this one. It's unrighteousness. It's wickedness.
Thanks to the leadership of our President, Joe Biden, there is a deal on the table for a ceasefire and a hostage deal.
What's that deal look like? Israel, stop defending yourself, give up your guns, hold yourselves at the mercy of a bunch of terrorist organizations while your people begin to suffer for the sake of allowing Hamas to continue to do what it's doing while making a mockery of everybody? Let's get real.
And it is important that we recall what the deal involves. The first phase of the deal would bring about a full ceasefire, including a withdrawal of the Israeli military from population centers in Gaza.
How well does that reflect on her awareness of good foreign policy? How well does that reflect on her capacity to function as commander-in-chief when she does not understand basic principles? Hamas will never give up, ever in a million years, if there is a full withdrawal of the Israeli military from the population centers in Gaza, as she would put it. They will continue to do what they do, and they'll allow themselves to be put under hospitals and doing all the nonsense that they've continued to do to fortify their position so that they may terrorize more lives on another day. Let's be real about what's happening, folks. Let's get real specific about this. population centers. My goodness.
In the second phase, the Israeli military would withdraw from Gaza entirely.
Notice the nonsense that she's saying, okay? With a serious look on her face. The first phase, we must withdraw the Israeli military from all Gaza population centers. All population centers in Gaza. The second phase, Israel would withdraw its military completely from Gaza. Yeah, while all hell breaks loose, right? While they continue to destroy the lives of the people around them and launch attacks on Israel. I don't think the people in Kibbutz Be'eri would be happy about that. I don't think anybody in the South would be happy about that. Egypt wouldn't be happy about it. Nobody would be happy about it. But this is what you say needs to be done. Completely withdraw. Even though Israel, prior to October the 7th, had been completely withdrawn from Gaza. Nobody was in Gaza on October the 7th.
And it would lead to a permanent end to the hostilities.
She's such a fool. Can I just tell you that? How in the world would it lead to a permanent end of the hostilities? Every single time they have an opportunity to destroy Israel, they take it upon themselves. When you have the leaders, when you have the actual leaders of Hamas saying they'll do it again and again and again and again and again, what do you think? What do you think? What do you expect? You think they're going to sit there and not do anything? As a matter of fact, let me show you a video. Let me show you a video of one of these leaders from Hamas is actually saying. Let me show you.
أن ساعة الصفر كانت سرية للغاية. عدد محدود من قيادة حماس يعرف أقل من أصابع اليد.
So he's talking about the attack on October the 7th and what happened and what they knew and what they didn't know. Just so that you know. By the way, you'll notice on his forehead, it's a little dark there. And the idea is it's supposed to show his piety from putting his head down to the ground because he's a Muslim who prays on a regular basis. This is one of the leaders of Hamas. And by the way, the translation is very good. What he's saying in Arabic the translation is a very, very good translation for what he's saying in Arabic. Believe me, I understand it.
الذين كانوا يعرفون عن العملية وتوقيتها.
You guys get it? He's saying that the number of people who knew about the attack were literally could be counted on one hand. That's how close they kept it to their chest. But look what it says, okay? They've decided as Hamas to take what they call a rational approach to deceive people into thinking that everything was going to be okay before they pounced on Israel. Watch this.
سلوكها في السنتين الماضيات إنه عقلاني وما بتدخل في حروب وما وقفت مع الجهاد الإسلامي في معركته السابقة.
لكن هاي كانت ضمن استراتيجية
طبعا إنه حماس مشغولة بالحكومة في غزة وبدها تدير بالها على 1.5 مليون فلسطيني وملتهية وخلص تركت المقاومة. لكن حماس من تحت الطاولة كانت تحضر لهذه العملية الكبيرة وصواريخ المقاومة اليوم بتغطي كل فلسطين. وين بده ياخذنا على تل أبيب؟ ما احنا من اليوم الأول قصفنا تل أبيب. بده ياخذنا على الجليل. الجبهة الشمالية انفتحت اليوم مع لبنان. يعني ليست آمن الجليل الآن للعدو الصهيوني ونحن قادرون أن نقصف الجليل من فلسطين المحتلة. لسرية المعركة ولنجاح ساعة الصفر ما كان حد يعرف من الفصائل وحتى الحلفاء ما كانوا يعرفوا ساعة الصفر. لكن بعد نصف ساعة جرى اتصال مع كافة فصائل المقاومة الفلسطينية ومع حلفائنا في حزب الله في إيران تم تبليغهم الأتراك تم تبليغهم.
You understand what he's saying? Based on what you're seeing in the translation, he spoke to the Turks. He spoke to the Palestinian leaders. He spoke to Iran. He's speaking to everybody around, all the people that are even supposed to be enemies of them because they're Sunni. And they're even speaking to their allies that are Shiites. Why? Because they want to destroy Israel and they're not going to back down. Look what he goes on to say.
صار لقاء معهم بعد 3 ساعات يعني 9 صباحا وكذلك كل من اتصل بنا وضعناه بالصورة حتى الروس أرسلوا رسالة واستفسروا كذلك تم وضعهم بالموقف.
Even Russians knew about what was coming. That's what he says. We even let the Russians know.
أهداف المعركة.
في معتقلين فلسطينيين أيضا خارج إسرائيل في دول أوروبية
في معتقلين في أمريكا كمان بدنا إياهم طبعا. في عندنا من حماس معتقلين في أمريكا ومحكومين مؤبدات كمان بدنا إياهم طبعا. نطالب أمريكا أن تفرج عن أبنائنا اللي في سجونها. وأمريكا عم بتعمل تبادل. عملت مع إيران قبل مدة قريبة تبادل. ليش ما تعمل معنا تبادل؟ ما هي شريكة في هذه المعركة. أعلن بايدن أعلى سلطة في أمريكا أعلن وقوفه مع إسرائيل ضد حماس ضد الشعب الفلسطيني. لذلك هو شريك في العدوان، عليه أيضا أن يدفع الثمن. الإسرائيلي معروف عنه أنه بحب الحياة. إحنا منضحي، نعتبر أنه قتلانا شهداء.
You hear that? The Israelis love life, but we don't. We celebrate our martyrs. That's what he said. We celebrate our martyrs.
فأمنا يعني أهم أمنية عند أي واحد فلسطيني أنه يستشهد في سبيل الله
يعني
دفاعا عن أرضه. ومحضرين حالنا إلنا سنتين عم نحضر ومنرتب وصنعنا كتير وعندنا مصانع كل شيء عندنا.
We've been preparing it for years. We're deploying it, all of the weapons in the factories. We're working very, very hard.
من صواريخ 250 كيلو ل 160 كيلو ل 80 كيلو ل 45 كيلو ل 10 كيلو. عندنا مصانع هاونات وقذائفها، مصانع بسفن وقذائف.
He's talking about rockets that have the capability of traveling 250 or 250 kilometers, 160 kilometers, 100 kilometers. He's going all the different distances that these rockets can go.
مصانع بيتن وقذائفها، مصانع كلاشينكوف رصاصة كلاشينكوف عم نصنعها بالإذن من الروس.
And he's talking about how Russia has licensed them to produce these Kalashnikov rifles. Oh yeah, it gets better.
عم نصنعها في غزة. صرنا حلفائنا اليوم احنا اللي بدعمنا بالمال والسلاح بشكل رئيسي إيران، بتعطينا مال وسلاح، هذا أكيد حزب.
Notice what he said. Sheikh Raisi من Iran. I have news for you. Sheikh Raisi is dead because of a helicopter crash. Don't mess with God. You mess around, you find out.
والله في عنا شعوب عربية وإسلامية واقفة معنا، في عنا دول تؤيدنا بالموقف السياسي. حتى الروسي اليوم متعاطف معنا، حتى الروسي يعني أرسل رسائل صباح أمس في تعاطف، ويعني سعيد أن تربك أمريكا في فلسطين. تعرف بتخفف عنه الضغط في أوكرانيا، لأنه معركة بتخفف عن معركة، فلذلك إحنا لسنا وحدنا في الميدان.
And this right here is another area where they say they'll do it again and again and again and again. Watch this.
إسرائيل دولة لا مقام لها على أرضنا. إحنا الدولة لابد أن نزيلها، لأنه بالفعل هي تعتبر كارثة أمنية وعسكرية وسياسية للأمة العربية والإسلامية، يجب أن تنتهي. لذلك إحنا لا نخجل من نقول ذلك بكل قوة، إنه إسرائيل لازم نأدبها، وحنأدبها مرة ثانية وثالثة. ومش هذا حتكون طوفان الأقصى أول مرة، لا، حتكون ثانية وثالثة ورابعة، لأنه إحنا لدينا إصرار ولدينا قرار ولدينا إمكانيات أن نقاتل. نعم. وأن نحارب. لكن كما قلت لك بدنا ندفع ثمن. نعم إحنا مستعدين. معلش بدي أقول لك بشكل واضح، إحنا اسمنا شعب الشهداء وبنفخر أن نقدم شهداء. إحنا لا نريد أن نمس لا بالمدنيين ولا أن نلحق الأذى بهم، لكن أوقات لأنه في تعقيدات في الميدان صارت في منطقة موجودة، وكان هناك في احتفال وكان في سكان وفي منطقة واسعة ليست سهلة على امتداد تقريبا 40 كيلومتر. يجب أن ننتهي.
أن ينتهي وين؟ بقطاع غزة؟
ينتهي إلى، لا، بتكلم عنه كل الأراضي الفلسطينية.
كل الأراضي الفلسطينية، يعني زوال طبعا. إسرائيل؟
طبعا. وجود إسرائيل غير منطقي. وجود إسرائيل هو اللي بخلق كل هذه الآلام والعذابات والدموع والدماء. هي إسرائيل مش إحنا ضحية الاحتلال، نقطة وآخر السطر. لذلك ما حدا يلومنا، إحنا شو اللي بنعمله في 7 أكتوبر، في 10 أكتوبر، في مليون أكتوبر. إحنا اللي بنعمله مبرر. It is justified. مبرر.
There you have it. You see how insane that is? You see how crazy that is? Yeah. Kamala's not thinking about any of that stuff. Yeah. You heard it out of their mouths. Let's hear what's next. Go Kamala.
It is time for this war to end, and end in a way where Israel is secure, all the hostages are released, the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can exercise their right to freedom, dignity, and self-determination.
That isn't it amazing that she uses freedom, dignity, and self-determination for the Palestinians in Gaza, but not once has she spoken about the Jews' rights to freedom, dignity, and self-determination. Isn't it amazing how those characteristics were encroached upon by the attack on October the 7th, and yet nobody wants to seem to acknowledge that? And isn't it also amazing that she continues to demonstrate a sense of what I would call, at the nicest way to put it, naivety, in that she has no clue that the only way that these hostilities end is for Hamas to be completely destroyed and for Israel to create a security infrastructure that will keep that from happening again. There's no way. Otherwise, a vacuum fills and it happens all over again. Come on, Kamala, wake up.
There has been hopeful movement in the talks to secure an agreement on this deal. And as I just told Prime Minister Netanyahu, it is time to get this deal done. So to everyone who has been calling for a ceasefire, and to everyone who yearns for peace, I see you and I hear you.
Boy, the last time I heard her say, I see you and I hear you, is when she said it to the Black Lives Matter protesters that were burning down American cities all over the country. And when she said, I see you and I hear you, she also went so as far as to raise money. Folks, no joke, raise money for these domestic terrorists that were burning down our cities so that they can get bailed out. And she denies it, and she tries to delete all the different tweets that she put out. But guess what? She did it because she's evil and she's dark. Make no mistake, that's exactly what she did. She's not changing. She's not changing. The we see you and hear you nonsense, there's nobody in Gaza that is interested in anything she has to say. I can promise you that.
Let's get the deal done so we can get a ceasefire to end the war. Let's bring the hostages home, and let's provide much needed relief to the Palestinian people.
It's funny. She says, let's get the deal done. Let's bring the hostages home, and let's bring much needed relief to the Palestinian people. Isn't it funny that she talks about it as though it's a switch that you can just flip? The hard thing has to be done. And if the hard thing isn't done, then none of those things are going to happen, Kamala. You're ignorant. At best, you're ignorant. At best, you're ignorant. At worst, you hate the very people that are the forefathers of your husband.
And ultimately, I remain committed to a path forward that can lead to a two-state solution. And I know right now it is hard to conceive of that prospect, but a two-state solution is the only path that ensures Israel remains a secure Jewish and democratic state, and one that ensures Palestinians can finally realize the freedom, security, and prosperity that they rightly deserve.
Do you understand how completely ignorant that statement was? And do you also understand that there's not a single Jew on the face of Israel, of the God-given land that they have, that agrees with a two-state solution at this point? Why would you give a two-state solution to a group of people that hate your guts, whose whole purpose is to destroy you from the river to the sea? This woman is nuts. She's talking about bringing the hostages home and then talking about a two-state solution. She just made it 10 times harder for Israel to bring those hostages home. She just made it way harder because she doesn't know what she's talking about. And everything that woman touches, she destroys. Go ask the millions of people that live on the southern border of the United States. They'll tell you all about the borders are.
And I will close with this then. It is important for the American people to remember the war in Gaza is not a binary issue.
Yes, it is. You're out of your mind. Yes, it is.
However, too often the conversation is binary, when the reality is anything but. So I ask my fellow Americans.
Isn't it funny how she says that the conversation is anything but binary, right? That there's nothing binary about it, yet she made it completely binary. She made this a completely binary conversation. She said, Israel does not have the right to self-determination by virtue of declaring that the Palestinians do, without acknowledging the existent and inherent right given to the Israelis, to the Jews, by the God that created them. Her whole conversation is binary. So when she says this is not a binary conversation and there's a lot of grays and blah, 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 you're sitting there like a hypocritical fool telling the American people that this is a non-binary conversation when you're being completely binary in your representation. You're a fake, Kamala Harris. You're a fake. And everybody can smell you from a mile away. Everybody.
To help encourage efforts to acknowledge the complexity, the nuance, and the history of the region.
I would love for her to learn the complexity, the nuance, and the history of the region. At least go to school and get a reasonable education. And when I say go to school, go to Israel. Sit down amongst some of the people that you talk about. Go to Gaza. Go to Gaza and sit amongst them without the help of Israel. That's the best school for you to go to. Because you know darn well that you won't do that. Because as ignorant and foolish and crazy as you are, you're not that stupid. You're not stupid at all, Kamala. And that's the part that kills me. You're nuts.
Let us all condemn terrorism and violence. Let us all do what we can to prevent the suffering of innocent civilians. And let us condemn anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and hate of any kind. And let us work to unite our country. I thank you.
She just spent this whole speech talking about Israel's need to concede their own right to self-determination. She just lectured them about all the things that they need to do, becomes the most inflammatory voice piece that has existed so far in the last couple of weeks after Israel has been attacked again and again and again. And then at the very end that says, let's do the best for our country. Let's unite our country. You are a kook, Kamala Harris. You don't know what you're talking about. And yes, I know people are going to come and they're going to say, well, James, you're a little lit up and you shouldn't be saying things like that. And you're a pastor and you're staying out of your lane. Actually, the whole reason why all of this stuff is happening in the first place and politicians like that are getting away with the nonsense that they continue to give into is because pastors have been silent. Is because we have not been speaking up. We've not been talking about these things. Shame on everyone who calls themselves a shepherd who will not talk about these things. We are destroying our country by taking the kind of foolish stand that Kamala Harris is taking. Who cares? Unite our country. Let the babies die. Let Israel lose its ability to defend itself. Let more casualties of Jews continue to take place because I have to get votes from Michigan. I have to get votes from certain people that are not happy. Is this good enough for you, AOC? Is this good enough for you, Talib? That's what's happening right now. It's ugly, folks. It's really, really dark. Let's open up our eyes to see what's really going on. And do not believe these lies. Do not believe these lies. I'm going to say this again. God will not be mocked. It says it. It tells us in the book of Genesis. God will curse those that curse them, and he will bless those that bless them. And I choose to receive the blessing of God. It's time to wake up. And folks, some of you might look at me on a video like this and say, James, you just sound so negative and it just feels like there's no hope. And it just, I'm getting depressed when I'm watching this. I'm telling you, there is hope. And I'm telling you the reason why I know there's hope, because we know what happens at the end. We know that God wins at the end, and we can find solace and we can find comfort and we can find peace, especially when we see the exhortation in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, where God tells us to be sober and to be watchful and to continue to function because we are children of the light, not children of the darkness, so that we will not be taken as a thief in the night. This is such a powerful and important principle. But if we know those things, then we will hold fast to what the word tells us. And you know what we're going to do? We can do something about this. We can speak up. We can write letters. We can make phone calls. We can be vocal. We can start to influence the people in our immediate scope of influence and allow it to spread to a much larger spectrum, because that's how it starts. We have to be able to trust that God knows what he's doing and will direct our efforts to bring glory to him. One other thing I should note. 2 Thessalonians tells us that Christians are the preserving influence in this world. As long as we are living on this earth, filled with the Holy Spirit, we are the gatekeepers from complete and total evil, taking full control over everything. Let's live like it. Let's walk and talk and act like it. Folks, when the church gets raptured, all hell is going to break loose on this earth, because God's judgment is going to reign supreme, and it's going to be ugly. Let's make the most of the time that we have. God is good and he's faithful. And folks, God wins. And that great city that you see behind me will always be preserved by God, because he said he would. It's that simple. God bless you.